Hello and welcome once again to the Adventures of Midlife.com channel. In this video, I will talk about my experience flying with Turkish Airlines Business Class from Toronto to Istanbul. Check my blog at midlifeadventures.com for the blog post for this video. First, a little background to the trip. The Toronto to Istanbul trip was part of my Asian trip. I was flying to Sri Lanka and my complete itinerary was Toronto to Istanbul by Turkish Airlines, Istanbul to Colombo, Sri Lanka by Turkish Airlines, Colombo to Singapore by Singapore Airlines, Singapore to London Heathrow by Singapore Airlines, and finally London to Toronto by Air Canada. All flights were in business class and I used 225,000 Aeroplan points and just over 300 Canadian dollars in taxes and fees. Check-in at the Turkish Airlines counter was a breeze. I was done in less than 10 minutes and quickly made my way through security and then to the lounge. The Air Canada Maple Leaf Lounge International at Pearson Airport's Terminal 1 is spacious and offers decent food, alcohol and other amenities. This wasn't my first visit to the lounge and I always felt they emphasized more on small plate food. But it's a good lounge. Boarding was scheduled for 9 p.m. for the 9:30 p.m. flight. After arriving at the gate, we were transported via bus to a separate terminal within the airport complex. And when we arrived at the destination, I checked with a staff member and she said this was a fill-in terminal. And so I learned something new about the Pearson Airport in Toronto, Canada. Once on board, menus were distributed and then came the drinks. I usually like to start my journeys with a glass of champagne, but there were only non-alcoholic drinks: lemonade, raspberry juice, orange juice or water. I chose lemonade. While I was enjoying the drink, the flight attendants distributed the amenity kits. It was cool red pouches for women and black for men. There were also bath slippers. They also asked me if I preferred dinner immediately after takeoff or later during the flight. I opted for the first option. I enjoy my airline food. And then it was time for the flight to take off. Shortly after the flight reached its cruising altitude, hot towels and more water were distributed and they started making the lie flat seats into bed. But then turbulence hit. About 30 minutes later, all was quiet and they came for the drinks order. I usually go for local beer. But this time, I wanted to taste a Turkish wine. And so I wanted the Serafin Sauvignon Blanc 2022, but that was unavailable. Instead, they offered me Côte d'Ivoire 2022, another Turkish option. The flight attendant assured me that if I didn't enjoy that, she could offer me the third white wine on the list, which was a French wine. But I was there to enjoy Turkish drinks and decided that I would rather go for a local beer than the French wine. Thankfully, the wine was good, was crisp and citrusy, and I didn't have to switch. Then we got the warm nuts, and I also got a battery operated night candle. The only other airline, as far as I know and I had experienced, that has this rather cute feature is Qatar Airways, which provided a similar candle on its flight from Doha to Montreal in Canada. Then it was meal time. Turkish Airlines business class meals are elevated by the presence of an onboard chef who oversees the service. The meal began with smoked salmon with capers and salad. The salmon was perfectly tempered, preserving its smoky flavor without overwhelming the palate. For the main course, I selected grilled prawns with asparagus, basmati rice, and tomato sauce. It was well prepared, flavorful, and served at the right temperature. Dessert was chocolate fondant with chocolate sauce, which had a light texture and rich flavor. Afterwards, it was all quiet and I turned on the entertainment section. Turkish Airlines offers a great entertainment system with a diverse selection of Hollywood, Turkish, and international films, including those from Europe. Interestingly, I also found educational content like LinkedIn Learning, but I wish they had more European and Asian, African, and Latin American options. The Denon headphones lent to the business class passengers provided high quality sound, adding to the experience. But I slept or read rather than watching movies using the entertainment section. Snacks were available throughout the flight, but I had had enough food, so I didn't opt for any. Before landing, a second meal was served. It started with fresh fruits, yogurt, chicken, roast beef, and cheese, paired with bread, and I chose a croissant, all washed down with a cup of coffee. This was sufficient for me, so I skipped the main course. And then it was time to say goodbye to the flight. Before I finish, let me talk about one of the most important aspects of flying, particularly luxury class flying, and that is about the cabin. The Boeing 777 business class cabin featured a 2-3-2 seating configuration. While this setup isn't the most private for the 10-hour flight, a pull-out divider between seats provides some separation. And with ample leg room, one could just step over the feet of the other passenger to get to the aisle. The seat itself was fully lie flat with ample leg room and touchpad controls for adjusting recline and footrest positions. I'm not very tall, so my stretched legs didn't reach the full extent of the lie flat seat. A massage function was also included. Additional features in the cabin included a power outlet, a USB charging port, reading lamp, and extra storage space. With the flight being 10 hours long, the washrooms are important. And the washrooms here in this flight were very clean and well maintained throughout the flight. Once upon a time, your flight time was off internet time. But that is changing as major airlines start offering Wi-Fi services for their passengers. And here in this Turkish Airlines Business Class flight, free Wi-Fi was available for the passengers. And I should say, I was impressed with the service as I was able to send and receive emails and check my Facebook, etc. I so far have experienced the Wi-Fi services of 3 or 4 different airlines, and I would consider this to be the best. Some final thoughts about my Turkish Airlines Business Class flight from Toronto to Istanbul. This was my second time flying Turkish Airlines Business Class from Toronto. Like the first time, I liked the food, service and the seating. The addition of free reliable Wi-Fi was a significant improvement over the last flight and making the flight even more convenient. Overall, Turkish Airlines Business Class continues to be a great experience and I wouldn't hesitate to fly with them again. Well, that's it for now for this edition of the Adventures of Midlife.com video channel. In this video, I talked about my experience flying the Turkish Airlines Business Class from Toronto to Istanbul. I hope you enjoyed the video and hope to see you soon in another adventure. Ciao!